People look at gold and see a shiny metal, a relic, an investment, a hedge, but almost nobody realizes what it actually represents when a nation reaches the edge of mathematical insolvency. And right now, the United States is not drifting toward that edge. It is standing on it. $37 trillion of federal debt, over $1.2 trillion in annual interest payments, a system paying interest on interest, spiraling faster than tax revenues can grow, faster than productivity can rise, and faster than voters can understand. The financial math is no longer strained. It is broken. And when math breaks, nations do too, unless they find a reset switch. What most people missed is that the reset switch has already been installed. Not advertised, not highlighted. Just quietly embedded inside a document everyone saw but almost nobody read. The headline said, Trump signs strategic Bitcoin reserve order. Social media exploded. Crypto influencers celebrated. Analysts focused on the digital future. The public stared at the right hand. But the left hand, the one doing the real work, was ignored completely. Because inside that same order lies a phrase that changes everything. Strategic reserve assets. A deliberately chosen legal category. This category, according to the Federal Register's definitions, includes digital assets, yes, but it also includes something far older, far more powerful, and far more dangerous to a bankrupt government: monetary metals. The moment that phrase became law, the blueprint for the largest financial reset since 1933 was activated. To understand why, we must look backward. In 1933, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt didn't tell Americans, "We need your gold because the government is insolvent." He told them he was preventing hoarding during a national emergency. The language was vague, bureaucratic, protective, but the outcome was simple. The government seized gold, revalued it, and used the profit to rescue itself. The language in the new order is hauntingly familiar. It grants the Treasury authority to acquire, manage, and value these reserve assets under the justification of national security. When a nation's debt approaches $40 trillion, solvency is national security. This isn't about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the decoy, the story for the public. The real mechanism is the same tool Roosevelt used 90 years ago: gold revaluation. And the reason the government is preparing this mechanism is hidden inside a tiny accounting line no politician ever mentions. A line so obscure that most economists never look at it. It's called the gold certificate account, and it is the Treasury's nuclear button. Here's how the mechanism works. The US Treasury officially holds about 261 million ounces of gold, but on its books, that gold isn't valued anywhere near the market price. Instead, by law, it is valued at $42.22 per ounce, a price set in the early 1970s and never updated since. That means that on paper, America's entire gold hoard is worth only $11 billion. That $11 billion is represented by gold certificates the Treasury issues to the Federal Reserve. The Fed holds the paper, the Treasury holds the metal, a symbolic arrangement until it isn't. Because when a president declares a national economic emergency, the Treasury Secretary has the legal authority to revalue that gold to any price he deems necessary for national security. If the price is reset to, say, $20,000 per ounce, the value of the Treasury's gold doesn't rise gently. It explodes from $11 billion to over $5 trillion instantly. And the Treasury does not need to sell a single ounce. It simply prints new gold certificates representing the difference in value and hands them to the Federal Reserve. In return, the Fed must credit the Treasury's account with the same amount of newly created money. No debt, no borrowing, no bond issuance, no interest owed. A multi-trillion-dollar infusion of equity created out of thin air, backed by the new official gold price. This is the reset mechanism. This is how you erase a giant portion of the national debt without saying the word default. Now the question becomes, why $20,000? Why not $5,000 or $50,000? Because the price isn't political, it's mathematical. To restore confidence in the US dollar, the Treasury must ensure that the monetary base, the foundation of the entire money system, is fully collateralized. The monetary base currently stands at about $5.5 trillion. Divide that by America's gold reserves, 261 million ounces, and you land near $21,000 per ounce. Round it to a clean figure, $20,000. That is the shadow price of gold required to restore full backing. This isn't speculation. It's balance sheet algebra. And it's not theoretical. The US used this exact approach during the Great Depression. After confiscating gold in 1933 at $20.67 an ounce, Roosevelt revalued it to $35. The government pocketed the profit, over $2.8 billion at the time, and used it to shore up federal finances. The blueprint hasn't changed, only the numbers have. And the banking system? It's already prepared. 3 years ago, a global banking rule called Basel III quietly reclassified physical allocated gold as a Tier 1 asset, meaning banks can treat gold as risk-free collateral, equivalent to cash or US Treasuries. That reclassification didn't happen accidentally. It built the runway for a world where gold must absorb trillions of dollars of revaluation. With gold elevated to the safest tier, a price spike doesn't destabilize banks. It rescues them. But here's the part nobody wants to talk about. Most people who think they own gold actually own nothing at all. The global gold market is fractional. For every real ounce stored in a vault, there may be 200 to 300 ounces of paper claims, ETFs, futures, unallocated accounts, circulating on the markets. As long as prices remain moderate, the illusion holds. But if the Treasury revalues gold to $20,000, instantly and by decree, the entire paper market implodes. Exchanges will declare force majeure. Contracts will be settled in cash. Brokerage accounts will show numbers, but no metal will move. Physical gold will vanish into private hands or central banks, and the public will be left with digital promises. Exactly like 1933, except faster. And that brings us to the most sensitive question. Could the government force citizens to surrender their gold again? If your gold is inside the US banking system, yes. In 1933, safe deposit boxes were sealed under federal order. Access required an IRS agent present. Today, enforcement is digital. If an emergency order is signed, software does automatically what men once did manually. Flags, locks, and reports. The moment gold becomes a strategic asset in a national crisis, the legal definitions of hoarding and sabotage shift accordingly. But modern confiscation wouldn't be sudden. It would follow a sequence. Phase 1. The patriotic buyback. A voluntary program framed as strengthening national security. Market price plus a small premium. Wrapped in patriotic language. Many will sell. Phase 2. Regulatory pressure. Lower reporting thresholds. Mandatory tracking of transactions over a few $100s. The creation of databases. Phase 3. Taxation on unrealized gains. A windfall profits tax specifically targeting precious metals. You don't outlaw gold. You suffocate it. Phase 4. Emergency acquisition. Only after most citizens have already surrendered their metal voluntarily, or through taxation pressure, does the mandatory acquisition order arrive. 90 days to comply. Failure becomes a felony. By then, the gold is already consolidated. The revaluation can occur cleanly, and the public barely notices until the new price is announced. This brings us to the most important question of all. Who wins and who loses? The winners are predictable. The US government. A devalued dollar makes the real burden of its $37 trillion debt dramatically smaller. The banking system. Their gold holdings, now Tier 1, explode in value and repair their balance sheets. The insiders. Those who moved into hard assets before the reset. Land, commodities, foreign currencies, and of course, physical gold. And the losers? The middle class, whose wages lag inflation. The savers, whose bank balances lose purchasing power. The retirees, whose pensions depend on government bonds that collapse in real value. Anyone holding paper assets during a currency devaluation. This process has a name in economics. Financial repression, the slow transfer of wealth from the productive class to the debtor state. The true danger is not the revaluation of gold. It is the inflationary wave that follows. Because when the Treasury injects trillions into the economy through gold certificates, prices rise long before salaries do. Groceries, rent, fuel, everything climbs. But this story isn't about fear. It's about timing. The infrastructure is already in place. The executive order already signed. Basel III already implemented. The definitions already updated. All that's missing is the crisis trigger. Could be a bond market freeze, a credit downgrade, a geopolitical shock. or simply yields rising too fast for the Treasury to handle. The moment that trigger is pulled, the window to prepare narrows from years to days. If your wealth is entirely inside U.S. jurisdiction, it is entirely inside the reach of U.S. executive orders. That is why sophisticated investors diversify across jurisdictions. Switzerland, Singapore, where allocated gold is considered private property, and where foreign confiscation orders have no legal authority. This is not hiding wealth. It is insulating it against political risk. The government is preparing to rewrite its balance sheet. They're going to transform $11 billion into trillions with a pen stroke. They're going to redefine money, collateral, and solvency in real time. The question is not whether the reset is coming. The question is who benefits from it.